Here's what's coming up on the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan.
We're looking at different strategies and different financial instruments to control that risk. Then we can generate the income we need. We know the income has a great chance of succeeding, and then we're going to figure out what the taxation is, so then we can make sure that you have enough after-tax income to meet your budget items in retirement.
We're able to drop his fees in his plan down to 0.96%, which means over the next 30 years, he can plan on reducing his fees potentially by over $250,000.
You only put enough money in these three buckets that we just talk about on our segments to do exactly what you need done. What do you want to accomplish? You just took enough money there, enough money in the market, enough money in cash, enough money in guaranteed income. And by doing that, I promise you, you will lower your stress level and your income plan has a real good shot at being super successful.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
Hi, welcome to this week's show.
We have 30 minutes of great information designed just for you.
Don't go anywhere, get comfortable, because the show starts right now.
Welcome to this week's Author's Corner. As usual, I'm here with Dan and Jim. They are TV personalities, radio talk show hosts, and Amazon.com best-selling authors. Guys, today we're talking about the single most important thing about retirement success. And Jim, I'm going to begin with you. Listen, we always circle back around to this. So few people have it, according to you guys, and that's a fully written out retirement plan describing what's going to happen year after year after year. Heck, you guys bring it down to the months, right?
Yeah, it's not about a diversified portfolio. That's when you're younger. It's about a plan when you get older. It's about having a comprehensive written plan in place before you invest your money. Know how much risk you have, know what fees you're going to be paying, know what the hidden fees are, know where your income's going to come from, what strategies should you use, how do I divide my money up so it's safe, when will my income stop or will it not stop, will it increase, will it decrease, what's my after-tax income, does it maintain my budget, what about inflation, what if I don't have long-term care insurance, how do I manage that in the future, what about my kids and my grandkids. All that has to be considered upfront in detail in a written plan before you invest your money, Mark.
Dan, are you telling me I can't get that from my quarterly statement or my monthly statement? It doesn't tell me all those things?
You definitely don't get that on your statements. Couple things. A statement, even though most people look at that as their plan because their advisor goes over their statement and say, let's review your plan. A statement is just a report card on how your assets have performed the last month or 3 months or last year. Tells you, did they go up or down? And frankly, that's what most clients understand about their statement. Did it go up or down compared to the last statement time period? They don't understand the fees. They don't understand the transactions. They have no idea what's happening. And the statement doesn't give you any hope of a plan for the future that tells you how much risk you're taking, doesn't really tell you the total fees you're paying, and it has no way to tell you how much income you can safely draw off of those assets to provide you the lifestyle that you want at retirement time period. So you really need to have an actual plan, and a statement will be a little baby part of that written plan, but it's just a baby part of it because that's how then we track it and account for what's happening on a monthly or quarterly basis.
Jim, we're going to talk about a lot of the things that are part of the plan, but I want to start this part with explain income, tax, and risk component. Income, tax, and risk.
Well, I'll start with risk first because the income tax and the income won't work if your risk is too high. So we have to figure out how do we lower the risk in the portfolio. You don't have to give up all your return to do that. But if you have a conventional portfolio, you have no other choice but to lower your risk by putting more money into bonds. We don't do that. We're looking at different strategies and different financial instruments to control that risk. Then we can generate the income we need. We know the income has a great chance of succeeding, and then we're going to figure out what the taxation is, so then we can make sure that you have enough after-tax income to meet your budget items in retirement.
And I'm going to take the last few pieces of that for you, Dan, and they are explain budget, fees, and legacy planning.
Sure. The most important part of your entire retirement plan is the B word, the budget, something we all hate.
Yes.
We think we have to now be tight. Well, for retirement planning, it's the golden budget, meaning how much money on a monthly basis do you need to pay for every single cost you have so you don't have to worry about money coming in this month, next month, the following month, and you know you'll always have more money to spend than you need. If you can do that, that will make you less worried about your money. So the budget is actually most important. Your assets aren't the most important. The budget is. Then you look at the fee component. Well, the fee component is important because if you're paying too much in fees and don't know the fees you're paying, you're going to worry, and those fees could erode your portfolio away where it either runs out or there's less money to leave to the beneficiaries.
You know, one of the things, and I see you guys describe this all the time, that a 1% difference in fee reduction could add potentially a six-figure over 20 or 30 years. Fair statement?
Definitely, because what if you have a $300,000 or $3 million portfolio and you're paying 1% more? You thought you're paying 1%, but you're paying 2% in fees. You're paying 1% more. That's 1% of $3 million. That's $30,000 more. You do that over 30 years. That's a $900,000. If you add a little bit of interest on it, it means you've lost over $1 million of your monies. You can't do that because it goes to your last question, which is the legacy. The more you pay in fees, there's a possibility you're going to leave less and less money to the beneficiaries. And we want to calculate out, based on your total assets, earning very conservative rates of return after you've taken income out that allows you to live your lifestyle, how much money can potentially be left to our loved ones, our kids and our grandkids.
Dan, Jim, thanks so much. If you want more information about anything we spoke about here today, hey, give us a call right now, 916-452-7325. Let's start a conversation. Or go to our website. But don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Jim Files, CEO of Peak Financial, your local resource for retirement and investment planning, acting as fiduciaries for advisory clients. We're offering you a free, worry-free retirement roadmap, including a 15-minute initial call, a face-to-face meeting, a second opinion about your money, a customized retirement income plan, our Amazon best-selling book. You can walk away and keep it all free, no pressure, no obligation, guaranteed. There's no risk and there's no cost. Call now.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
On this week's segment of We Fix Your Money, you're going to meet Jerry. He is 60 years old and has a disability pension as a peace officer. He's scared about making financial mistakes like taking too much risk or running out of money in retirement. Now over to Dan and Jim to tell you how they helped Jerry.
Thanks, Mark. We're so excited to talk about this week's hypothetical case study. And Jerry might be like you. You might see a lot of things we're going to talk about in this case study that really fit into how you feel, maybe your financial position, and just let it show how by building a plan you might be able to become financially secure throughout your retirement time. So let's say he's age 60. He's a retired peace officer. He got hurt on the job and gets 50% of his money on a tax-free basis from his pension. He has $1.4 million of assets. He has $700,000 though in one tech stock. He thinks he's moderate risk even though he has $700,000 in one tech stock. He wants more income. He wants to leave a legacy. He wants a full written plan to make sure that he understands his money. And he wants to stop worrying about all kinds of things. He wants to stop worrying that he's not using his assets and he's going to regret not using his assets. He wants to stop worrying about the market crashing. He wants to stop worrying about having so much money in one tech stock. He wants to stop worrying about his money running out and not being able to leave a legacy. And he wants to stop worrying about not having enough liquidity because he wants to feel free to spend the money, and liquidity allows him to spend the money. So when you look at this, Jim, a lot of our clients feel that way, and we then have to start doing some assessments for them.
Well, you know, everybody that's approaching retirement or in retirement, they're worried about their money. They're worried about a lot of the things you've identified here. So the first thing we did an allocation and risk assessment. He had $50,000 in the bank. He had $650,000 in his growth bucket. Remember, he was focused on one tech stock, very over-concentrated with $700,000. We redid his plan. We increased his bank money from having $50,000 to $150,000 for greater safety. We lowered the growth bucket by $150,000. We started to whittle away at that one tech stock because he had way too much risk in one stock. We put $600,000 in his principal protected and lifetime income bucket. Same amount of money, we just restructured it. And then when we looked at his risk, he had a 55.9% risk factor. A lot of that had to do with that one stock, which means that the market dropped by 50%. He was projected to lose more than the market itself, which means he was going to lose about $783,000 of the value of his portfolio, and he would need a 127% rate of return to make up a 55.9% loss. That was significant. It was shocking when he saw that. He knew he was over-concentrated in one stock, but when he saw the numbers, it really made him change his mind. We lowered his risk factor less than 10%. Rather than losing $783,000, he was projected to lose approximately $139,000. Again, it's not risk-free because he had money in the market, but we only need an 11% rate of return to make up that 9.9% loss, not 127% return to make up a 56% loss where he was, Dan.
Well, when you look at this, I think a lot of people might say when they're watching the show, oh, that can't happen to a lot of people. We see a lot of people like this.
Yep.
We see a lot of people with that current plan risk factor, potential loss percentage between 45 and 60%. You could be one of those, and that doesn't mean you really have an overly aggressive portfolio. That's just considered a moderate portfolio is 45% up to 60% more aggressive. We get the risk down in almost every single plan to between 5 and 10% of risk, which is a lot more manageable, and people can swallow that because they know they don't have to make back 126.8% just to recover. In this case, we needed an 11% gain just to recover, which we can imagine 11%. We can't imagine 126%. Well, doing that type of analysis allows us to do our next analysis, which is our income and fee assessment. And in this case, he wasn't planning to take out any income from his assets. None of it was guaranteed. We created this new plan, which was going to give him $48,000 of income from his plan each year, with $43,000 of the $48,000 being guaranteed for as long as he lived. So now he didn't have to worry about it, and we only needed to use $600,000 of assets to achieve that income goal of $43,000 of guaranteed income. His fees previously were 1.62%. We're able to drop his fees in his plan down to 0.96%, which means over the next 30 years, he can plan on reducing his fees potentially by over $250,000, by over $250,000 that he either gets an extra income or he gets to keep it in his assets for long-term care later or to pass them on to his own beneficiaries. And this then allowed us to do something very important, which is his true monthly income assessment.
Income, right, Dan? The gross monthly income was projected to be about $15,000 a month. Estimated tax, including federal and state, $1,558. Net after-tax income, $13,000 plus per month. Minus his budget of $92.55 left him $4,334 of what we call excess cash flow above the budget, which was an extra $52,000 a year that he could spend above his budget requirements to do the things that were planned in retirement, to buy a new car, to do a remodel, to help out grandkids. All those things can be handled along with long-term care costs in the future and inflation if you have excess cash flow, Dan.
Well, that excess cash flow is what will provide you the feeling of not having to worry about your money so much. Because imagine you are Jerry and you're generating enough income per month, $13,589, to pay your $9,255 budget, but you still have, just imagine, $4,334 more per month sitting in your bank account, more than you had last month, and you didn't need to spend it. Well, you can spend it if you want to buy something or you want to save it for something. It just gives you that extra feeling of security knowing that much more money is coming in. $52,000 more per year is coming in. Well, after we did the analysis for Jerry, remember, he worried about his beneficiaries. And let's pretend now his portfolio only earns 4%. His bank only earns 1%. His real estate only earns appreciation of 1.5%. And he spends all this extra income we're giving him. He never saves one penny. Well, by age 90, he would have taken out $1.6 million of income, which is awesome because he wasn't planning to take out any income. He's taken out $1.6 million of income. If his portfolio earns 4%, bank earns 1%, real estate appreciates by 1.5%, by age 90, he's projected to be able to leave $3.5 million of assets to his beneficiaries, even though he spent all the income he took out of it. So that's an awesome way to allow him to achieve all the goals that he wanted, which was reduce his risk, reduce his fees, create the income he needed, have a lot of it on a guaranteed basis, not have to pay too much tax, and still be able to spend it all while leaving a significant amount of money to his beneficiary. So maybe summarize really what was done for him.
Well, with Jerry, with all clients, we had to put together a full written plan for to make all this happen. It had to be in writing, had to be detailed so that we knew what we were going to do with the money before it got invested. We got him more income immediately. We reduced the risk. We reduced his concentration in the tech stock. We reduced his fees, which was great. We increased his liquidity, which was cash and liquidity that he had in the market. We left money to the beneficiaries, which was very important to him. And guess what? Like all of our clients, they start worrying less about the money once you understand how to position it correctly.
And you probably saw a lot of yourself as we're going through Jerry's plan, whether it's what he wanted, how his assets were allocated, his income, and it made you think, gosh, if I just did some planning, I could achieve these same types of goals. And you possibly could, because it takes planning to allow someone like Jerry or you to achieve these goals by putting every single thing in writing so you don't have to worry about your money any longer. Mark, back to you.
Wow, guys, what great results from a great plan. Your situation may not be exactly like Jerry's. You may be married or still working, but you can see how planning can help you attain your goals and alleviate some of your worries about money. If this is something you'd like help with, give us a call in the office right now, 916-452-7325, or visit our website. Now stay tuned for a great complimentary offer.
Hi, I'm Dan Ahmed, president of Peak Financial. We have a great free offer for you. We're offering you a free, worry-free retirement roadmap that includes a 15-minute initial call, a face-to-face meeting, a second opinion about your money, a customized retirement income plan, our Amazon best-selling book. You can walk away and keep it all for free. No pressure, no obligation, guaranteed. Call the phone number on the screen or go to our website to claim your free offer. You have nothing to lose, there's no risk, and there's no cost. Call now.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
Welcome back to the program. Now let's listen in on the Peak Financial Freedom Hour with Jim and Dan.
Jim, great to be back for this week's Peak Financial Freedom Hour, our radio show. And we give a lot of good information, and we really like to educate people. It's kind of the core of our company. One of the things we've done in the past is we always ask questions that people might have, and we're going to go over some of these questions we've had from the past. Because we think these questions right now that have happened in the past will really be pertinent to the people now, because a lot of times it's been on risk. How do I generate income? I'm worried about my money. I don't have a plan. All those types of things that we really work on. So how about Richard and Jenny? We lost a lot of money in 2008 and finally made it back. We had $4.2 million 2 years ago, so they saved a lot of money.
Yeah.
But now, because of the recent market turmoil, we only have $3 million. We're worried about the next stock market crash and don't want to hear our broker tell us to hang in there and ride it out, stay the course, and the market will recover when we start losing a lot of money. What can we do?
Well, a couple things. Number one, you should worry. Number two, if you lose 50% of your money at this point in your life, you're going to have a dramatically different retirement than you ever planned. Number three, you should get a second opinion. You need a separate set of eyes looking at your finances right now, because you don't have a plan in place, and there's no way you can navigate through retirement unless you have a plan in place. You have to understand your risk. You have to understand how much you could lose. You have to sign off on that before you invest any money. This is your money. You have to be the steward of your money.
Definitely.
You can't rely on somebody else. So if you put together a plan that tells you how much risk you have right now, that you sign off before those money gets invested, how much you could lose, understand your fees, and then lay out an income plan for the rest of your life, you're going to feel a heck of a lot more comfortable. And you can design a plan where you don't lose 50%. If you're in the market, you can actually design a plan whereby, if you structure your portfolio correctly, to keep your risk factor actually less than 10%. Which
that would
where
be the
we want to
goal.
be. Yes.
Well, and for these people, I think you have to look at, for everyone, they're older now. They're getting ready to retire most likely, and that's why they have these questions. Mm-hmm. And when they were young and they were taking the risk, it was fine. They should have been aggressive. Yeah. So there was nothing wrong. We're not saying they did anything wrong previously, but as they approach retirement, they better not be in a position to lose $1.2 million, which is what happened. I just actually worked with clients just like this. They had $4.2 million. They went down to $3.1 million over the last 2 years. They weren't our clients, and they had a lot of risk. So we're trying to put that plan together for them that'll completely reduce how much risk they're actually
taking. One thing we won't do, we will not tell you to stay the course.
Never. We never say write it out, hang in there, stay the course, ever. How about, let's look at Tammy. I've had an advisor for over 15 years, and I think of him as a close friend. I told him I want less risk, but he hasn't adjusted my portfolio. He hasn't provided me an actual plan in writing. Like you always say, he told me my total fees are about 1%, but it's not in writing. I'm going to retire in 24 months, at least that's my plan. I need a plan in writing, and I'm worried. I feel guilty that I'm actually looking for a new financial advisor. What do you think? Well, what you just said, Tammy, is kind of what a lot of people say that have an advisor, and it really is amazing to Jim and I that they feel guilty coming to get a free second opinion from us, as if they're cheating on their spouse, literally.
It's terrible.
It's amazing. And they think they owe their advisor something. They don't owe their advisor anything. The advisor has made money off of you, Tammy, for 15 years. Yeah. They've already made money. If they have not given you a plan, if you have no idea how much risk you're taking, you have no idea the fees you're paying in writing, and you don't have an actual income plan, then they're not doing what they should have already done for you. And 100% guaranteed, that's why you're worried. There's nothing to feel guilty about. So when you look at Tammy, she's exactly like the perfect client for us, because she saved money for retirement and she wants to make sure she's going to be okay once she pulls the plug 24 months down the road and retires. So she needs a plan. She needs to be able to design, we need to be able to design a plan for her that shows her total income, that shows each year how much income she's going to get and where each income is going to come from, each source, for the next 30 years of retirement. We need to show her how much tax she's going to pay. We need to show her what her net income is after taxes, so she knows how much she has to spend. We need to help her do a budget. We need to show her how much risk she has in writing and the fees she's paying. And if she has all of those things in writing, now she won't be as worried? And if she has all those things in writing for the first time, will she feel guilty that she came to us?
No, she won't. But she has to take that step forward,
Exactly.
and she has to get that second opinion, right?
Exactly. So there's probably a lot of people feeling just like Tammy. Feel free. Give us a call. We'll give you a free second opinion. We also will meet with you and answer your questions. You can go to our website, get a lot of data, get educated there. You also can set up a time to meet with us right there on the website.
Thanks, guys. That was some great information. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
It seems like everyone has been told at some point in their lives not to worry about losses they've suffered in their portfolio because they will recover quickly. They're told losses are easy to make up because the stock market always recovers. Today on Peak University, Dan and Jim are going to be discussing whether or not they agree with these views.
Thanks, Mark. Well, you know what? You're going to always go through stock market volatility and potential losses if you're invested in the stock market. That's not a bad thing. You just have to understand to what extent your assets might be at risk and try to protect those assets against too big of a loss. If you remember, one of the most famous investors, he gave his 2 rules for investing in one of his famous speeches. Rule number 1 was never lose money. Rule number 2 was never forget rule number 1. And Jim and I, we like to say that and teach our clients that, and they laugh because they know when they invest, they have to lose money in some cases, but the goal is to make sure you don't lose too much at any given time. So when you look at what's really happened in the stock market, I know a lot of people like to tell you, oh, don't worry, everything will be fine. You're going to earn 10 or 12% rate of return every year. Well, that really isn't going to happen. It hasn't happened historically. I don't think it's going to happen in the future. So we like to look at the negative sides to make sure you plan against the worst things happening. Let's look at the bear markets all the way back to 1929. And a bear market is when the stock market goes down 20% or more. So you need to know how many times this has happened because you're told it doesn't happen that frequently. Well, if you go back to 1929, it's only happened 16 times, not counting what happened in 2022 to 2023, because we don't have the final verdict on that loss yet. But only 16 times doesn't sound like that many. The problem is that means, Jim, it happens every 5 years. So if you're 60 and retired, you're going to have to go through 5 or 6 more of these. 39% losses while you're trying to navigate using those assets for income and making sure it doesn't run out. That's very tough. And I think a lot of people think the stock market crashes in one day and you're given notice to get out. It doesn't. It takes on average 18 months from the high point to the low point in the stock market. You never are told. You don't get a text saying get out of the market, and it just slowly happens. And at the end of this 18 months, you're like, oh my gosh, how did I lose 39.5% on average? Well, it's because that's what's happened. And when you look at this chart, it's scary mainly because of this light blue box. 5 years, every 5 years historically, we've gone through a 39.5% or 39% loss. Does that mean we should be planning for that to happen in the future?
You better plan. If you're 60 and you live till 90, you're going to go through 6 of those on average. You might go through 4, you might go 7, but you better plan so that your portfolio is constructed correctly, Dan.
Definitely. Well, because of this, we've created what we have termed the golden rule of 5 to 10% because losses are very hard to recover. Maybe go over why this is so paramount to when we put a plan together for the success of a retiree, pre-retiree.
Yeah, as you're watching right now, I want you to pay really close attention to this slide because this is really impactful. This has to do with your money right now, how it's positioned. As we said, we have what is called the golden rule of 5 to 10%. That's our slogan we've created within our firm, which means we don't want you to lose a lot of money the way you're positioned. For example, if you lose 50% of your assets because the market goes down, if you have $1 million in green here, that means you lost $500,000. You're down to $500,000 in principal. You actually need mathematically a 100% rate of return to make up that 50% loss. It doesn't seem reasonable, but that's the math. Now, if you lose less, if you lose 30%, you lost $300,000 of your portfolio value, which many people lost in 2022. You're down to $700,000. You actually needed a 42.9% rate of return to make up that loss.
Well, in those losses, or the recovery gain doesn't include income, paying taxes, or paying fees.
Exactly. That's your strict losses on paper, right? If you allow us to construct a portfolio correctly by using different asset classes, using different financial instruments, integrating different strategies, we can actually lower your risk substantially. We don't want you to take more than a 10% risk factor. And what that means, if the market drops by 50, you're down by 10, right? Ideally, we like you to in between 4 and 6%. I'll give you an example. Let's just assume the market drops by 50% and we've constructed your portfolio so you would only lose approximately 5%. That means you're down $50,000. It's not risk-free. You still lost some money, right? But you're $1 million down to $950,000. This is the key point right here. We only need a 5.3% gain, which is a recovery gain, to make up that 5% loss. That is significant. Rather than having something up here in the red zone that you're trying to achieve, we have something much less. Getting that recovery is now doable rather than being super challenging up here in the red zone.
When you're explaining this 5.3% recovery gain and a 5% loss, think about it at home. Would you worry about your money as much if it was in writing that you're projected to have a maximum 5% loss? It could be a little bit lower, a little bit higher, but if that was in writing to show that was what we're projecting and you only had to make 5.3% back to recover versus having a 50% loss and needing a 100% gain to recover, you probably would worry about your money a lot less and feel a lot more comfortable, and we can do that. I'd say 95% of our clients right now are coming in and they're requesting a 5% or lower risk factor in their portfolio, and we're able to design those types of plans. Well, let's take this type of data and look at a real life situation of the stock market. And let's say you have a stock market investment, which is this gray line going back to 1999, and the stock market went up a lot. Stock market went up 20% in 1999 to 2000. Then it crashed in 2001-2. You probably remember that with the technology bubble. Grew back to 2007, crashed in the 2008 financial crisis, went back up. So a ton of volatility. What if we tried to protect some of your assets against large losses, a certain percentage, and we used what's called an annual reset inside of a fixed index annuity that can lock in your gains? What if now when the stock market went up 20%, you only went up this 6%? So it didn't make as much because you won't make as much, but then when the market crashed, you stayed flat. You didn't lose 1 penny. How would you like to have not have lost 1 penny during the 2001, 2002 technology bubble when the market went down about 54%? You went flat, and then when the market starts rebounding, you don't have to recover to start making gain. You start making gains right away when the market rebounds, only up to, in this example, a 6% maximum gain. But when the market crashed in 2008, you never lose any principal. Then when the market starts rebounding, you kept going up. And how would you like to get at the end of this 15-year time period? And the black line, which is the conservative no-risk fixed index annuity line, is higher than where the S&P 500 was, simply because you never had to make back losses.
Well, the key here, Dan, is most people don't understand that you can integrate these types of planning techniques into an overall retirement plan. And you don't put all your money here, right? You only put enough money in these 3 buckets that we just talk about on our segments to do exactly what you need done. What do you want to accomplish? You just took enough money there, enough money in the market, enough money in cash, enough money in guaranteed income. And by doing that, I promise you, you will lower your stress level and your income plan has a real good shot at being super successful.
When overall, you'll stop worrying about your money so much, which is the goal. Back to you, Mark.
Thanks, guys. It seems unfair that if you lose 50%, that you have to make a 100% gain just to break even and recover. The golden rule of 5% to 10% makes a lot of sense. If this is something you'd like to learn more about, give us a call right now in the office at 916-452-7325 or go to our website.
You're watching the Peak Financial Freedom Show with Jim and Dan, Sacramento's retirement television.
Thanks for watching this week's show.
And if you want more information about anything we talked about here today, give us a call in the office or go to our website.
And remember, at Peak Financial Freedom Group, we fix your money.
The preceding program is sponsored by Peak Financial Freedom Group.